Hello everybody! Welcome to the very first ROM Storytime Live. My name is Sarah Elliott. I am a science teacher at the Royal Ontario Museum, and I am really excited. This is brand new for all of us, so I hope that you'll bear with me. And because it is everybody's first story time, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how ROM Storytime works. So every morning, Tuesday morning at 11 a.m., we're going to read a story. And that story, the way that we choose it is inspired by one of the galleries or exhibitions at the Royal Ontario Museum. And we're going to read the story. After the story, we can talk a little bit about any questions you have or how it relates to things at the ROM. And then I get to give you a creativity challenge, which I'm really excited about. So there's a lot to get through, and we're going to get started. So this week, we started picking our story based on an exhibition that just ended at the ROM. And that exhibition was the Bloodsuckers exhibition. And I said it in kind of a spooky way, but I was being a little bit silly because the whole point of the Bloodsuckers exhibition was to talk about how animals that feed on other animals' blood have been around in many different groups of living things for a really long time. And those blood-feeding animals have inspired stories for really as long as humans have been telling stories. And one of my very favorite things was in the exhibition, and I hope you're ready for this, was this blackfly head. Now, this is not a life-size blackfly head. That would be a really scary blackfly. A real blackfly head is about that big. But this was a really great model that showed how blackfly feeding parts actually worked. And that is the inspiration for our story this week. Our story this week is Blackflies, written by Robert Munsch and illustrated by Jay Odjick. And I want to say a huge thanks to Scholastic Canada for giving us permission to read this book today. So before we get started, there are two things in this book that I'm going to need a little bit of help with, because as you know, it's springtime. And springtime is when flowers start to come back, which means pollen starts to come back, which means I get a little scratchy and a little sneezy. So I'm going to need some help with two parts of this book. Now, as we're reading, one of the things we're going to see as we're reading is this. Ah! And when we get there, I'm going to need your help doing that part because I can't be loud enough on my own. And the second thing you're going to see is this. Yuck! Glach! Wah, 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 wah. And when we get there, I'm really going to need your help because I can't do that by myself. So, are we ready? Let's get into Blackflies. Hey everybody! Sorry to interrupt, it is Sarah from the future with an important message for you. Now, unfortunately, after the 2020 school year ends, we can't keep the read aloud portion of the Storytime in the Storytime broadcast, but don't worry, I've got something special for you. Now, in the meantime, we do encourage you to pick up a copy of this book. You can sign it out of your library. Get your grown-ups help to share your thoughts with us at ROM Toronto, #ROM@home, because we would love to hear what you think of this book. But in the meantime, here is Sarah's super fast Storytime summary.
Okay, so there's this girl named Helen who wakes up one morning and is all, yay, it's spring! But then she hears this nee sound and is all, oh no, it's mosquitoes and blackflies, and runs away to hide under her bed. And then she gets this great idea to send her sister Megan out to check the temperature. But oh no, this giant cloud of blackflies and mosquitoes carries Megan away. So then Helen's dad is all, hey, where's your sister? And Helen's like, she's in the woods in her pajamas. And her dad's like, wait, what? And runs outside, and the blackflies carry him away. So Helen's like, okay, that's it, and gets this super stinky bug spray and goes out into the woods. And she finds this giant pile of blackflies and mosquitoes and sprays it, but it turns out, oh no, it's a wolf, and the wolf passes out. So Helen keeps going and finds another giant pile of blackflies and mosquitoes, but this time it's a bear. which passes out from the bug spray. And then she finds these other piles, and it's Megan and her dad. Yay! But then the mosquitoes and blackflies come back and chase them, because they decided they like the bug spray now, and they chase them all the way through the woods back to their house. And then, after breakfast, they all went out in protective gear, because even though there are bugs, you still gotta enjoy that springtime.
All right. So I hope that you enjoyed that story. And I know I had a really good time reading it, and I hope that you read along with me. I even had my bug dress today to get ready for it. So do you have any questions about Blackflies or the stories we read or the Bloodsuckers exhibition that inspired our choice of book today? Well, I am waiting for your grown-ups to type in any questions that you have. I am going to pull up something very special that I'm going to share with you. All right, so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, but if you have to think of some questions, or if questions come to you later, you should be able to see on my screen right now that there is some contact information. Hashtag ROM at home. That's our hashtag that we're using for all of the stuff we're doing here. And at ROM Toronto is our home on Twitter and our home on Instagram, and you can always send questions there using those tools, and then we can answer that as well. So I saw one question: why are blackfly bites worse than mosquito bites? And it kind of depends on you. So the way that mosquitoes get their food is they have kind of a really, really skinny mouth part, almost like a hypodermic needle if you've ever had to get an allergy shot. And it goes in and it gets the blood out, and they have, let's see, how do I explain this? Imagine if you ever had a fruit smoothie that's been freshly made and you're drinking it with a straw, and there is a bit of fruit that didn't get blended up really well, and it gets stuck in the straw, and you're like, and you can't quite get it up. That's what happens to mosquitoes and other blood feeders if your blood starts clotting while they're feeding, because your blood wants to stay in your body. It's not very useful if it's outside of your body. And so blood-feeding insects, their spit has stuff in it that makes your blood not clot. And how itchy that bug bite is depends on how allergic you are to their spit. I know it sounds really gross, but if you are more allergic to mosquito spit than blackfly spit, mosquito bites are going to feel worse. But blackflies, the way that they eat, rather than having a really, really skinny mouth part, their mouth parts, there's a couple of parts to them. One part kind of like pulls at your skin, and the other part is like a little teeny pair of scissors that kind of goes like snip, and it makes a little hole in your skin, and then their spit keeps your blood flowing. And then they have a third mouth part that's kind of like a straw that gets it up. So they make a little bit of a bigger opening in your skin, which is why you tend to kind of feel them more, and you can see them bleed more than you can see a mosquito bite bleed. Okay, my favorite thing about insects. It's hard to say my favorite thing about insects because there are so many different kinds of insects. There are more kinds of insects than pretty much all other life on Earth put together. But one of the things that I love most about insects is the fact that even though they have kind of bad reputation, and especially when I was little, I used to be scared of them and be like, oh, bugs. So much of our life depends on bugs. They are a huge, important part of a healthy ecosystem. Even blood-feeding bugs, which we would prefer didn't feed on us, are a really, really important part of the ecosystems that they're part of. So bugs help all other life on Earth exist, and I think that is my favorite thing about them. Let's see. What do blackflies eat? Blackflies eat blood. They are blood-feeding insects. And it's not just insects that are blood feeders. When you look at all different kinds of living things on Earth, you find blood feeders in fish, you find blood feeders in mollusks like snails, you find blood feeders in birds, and you find blood feeders in mammals. Okay. Why did the flies like the bug spray? I guess they just got used to it. I don't know. Some people like some pretty crazy things that not a lot of other people end up liking. Do blackflies and mosquitoes usually live in the same areas? There is definitely overlap. Now, fortunately for us in southern Ontario, you tend to find blackflies more in northern Ontario. Sorry if anybody is joining us from northern Ontario. I definitely got blackfly bites down here when I was younger, but not nearly as many as when we used to go up to a cottage that we borrowed up north. Okay, so I am going to move on to the creativity challenge. Remember, if you have any more questions, you can always use this contact information that's down here. And there is also, grown-ups, in the description of this video, a link to the creativity challenge page, and that also has our contact information, as well as links to everything that I'm about to share with you. Because it is time for our creativity challenge, and you can tell I'm so excited about this. I'm chair dancing despite myself. I can't actually help it. So our creativity challenge is inspired by the time of year that this book takes place. So in our story, the blackflies have come out and the mosquitoes. But springtime is a time when lots of living things either return to the area from where they've migrated or come out of hibernation from when they've been sleeping. And there's a lot of stuff out there to discover. So for our creativity challenge this week, we're going to get out there and discover what we can discover and then do a project about it. So the first thing you're going to do is investigate what's outside. And you can investigate things that you can find in your yard if you have one, things you can see out of your window, things that you find inside your own house, or things that you discover when you're doing a healthy walk around your neighborhood. So when you're doing this, you're going to take notes about the things that you find, or pictures of the things that you find. And these could be animals, they could be bugs, they could be plants, they could be flowers, which are plants, they could be fungi, they could be any other living thing. And you can take photos of them if that helps you remember. You can get your family to send you pictures too. So you're going to have a collection of living things that you know are returning to your neighborhood or the neighborhoods where your families live. And then you're going to identify as many as you can. And there's lots of tools that you can use to help figure out what these things are. You can use books, you can use the internet, you can use your family's knowledge or the knowledge of people in your community. I know for sure that my Aunt Jenny is an amazing gardener and she knows a lot about the plants that are in the neighborhood. So I will often call her up and send her photos or FaceTime and turn the camera around to be like, Aunt Jenny, what's this? Aunt Jenny, what's this? Aunt Jenny, what's this? But if you don't have an Aunt Jenny, or if your Aunt Jenny is getting really tired of you asking her questions all the time, if somebody in your family has a phone like mine, there's a really neat tool that you can use called Seek. And this is one that scientists at the museum use all the time as well. And what Seek does is you can actually hold your camera up to a plant and it will find what that plant is and it will tell you what you're looking at, or animal, or fungus, or other living thing. So once you have identified everything, then you are going to create a collage. And a collage is a collection of pictures. And this could be, here's an example that I did. It could be drawings, it could be printouts of photos that you took. You can mix the two together like I did. So I drew my squirrel on different paper and then cut it out. I drew my strawberry leaf and my crocus right on the paper that I was using. I printed out pictures of other flowers that I found. And you can use anything else that you have handy as well. I happen to have yarn, I happen to have these little flower things that I made once, but you can use whatever you want. Your creativity challenge is not going to look like my creativity challenge because you have different things and you're going to be creative in a different way than me. So get creative, create the springtime collage of visitors to your neighborhood. And then you can share your collage with us at ROM Toronto, #ROM at home. And I really hope you do this because I am so excited to see what you create. So this is about the end of our story time. And I really hope that we hear from you. Again, in the description below this video, there is a link to the Creativity Challenge page, which will have a summary of the story that we read today. It will have everything that I just went over for the Creativity Challenge, and it will have this address where you can share your Creativity Challenge with us. And stay tuned to the What's On calendar on the ROM's website, because very, very soon we're going to announce the book that we're going to be reading next week. And I'm really excited about that one too. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on our very, very, very first ROM story time. I had an amazing time. I hope that you enjoyed yourselves too. And everybody, take care of each other, keep reading, and I hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody.